Welcome to Told by the Fire, a weekly podcast of strange happenings and ghostly occurrences told in the dark of the woods. Relax, take a load off. You should be fine as long as you stay by the fire. It's often said no good deed goes unpunished. The traveler in our next story may find this old saying particularly relevant. But when he sees a man walking with a little girl in the middle of the night, he is suspicious of the man's intentions. At first he tries to put his misgivings to rest, determining that it may only be his nerves, or that he is being too nosy. As he watches them more, though, he becomes convinced that his suspicions may be based on a yet intangible thing. He knows there is something wrong with the relationship between the man and the girl, but he just can't put his finger on it. When a disturbing event happens, that brings him to a point where he can no longer ignore the danger posed by the man, he stands up for the innocent, only to realize that he himself, our traveler, may be the ultimate victim. I present to you a story I have always called Red Balloon. I often think about what would have happened if I had followed that little girl, instead of chasing after the man I had once guessed to be her father. I'm glad I made the decision I did, to leave her there alone, abandoning her to the creatures of the night. I'm haunted by what my end could have been if I had not given in to my anger. I might not be here now to tell you this story. On the surface, this might sound like a horrible thing to say, to leave a seemingly helpless little girl alone in the dark forest. But once you hear all the details, I'm sure you'll agree with me. I'm sure you'll realize I had no other choice. I'll tell you the story as it happened to me. This is the only way that it makes sense. Because try as I might, there are too many dead ends, too many things that just don't add up. It's like a knot that becomes messier the more you try to untie it. Even now, that night is fresh in my mind, as if I'm living it out again. I take a deep breath, steeling myself to face the inevitable terror that lay just ahead of me. It's a cool fall night, and as I exhale, I watch the vapors trail off into the darkness. I shiver a bit. The danger is in my mind. I almost whisper to myself half-jokingly. I listen to the hollow pounding of my feet against the pavement as it echoes off into the night. I'm walking through one of the many community parks that meander in and out of the suburbs where I live, just outside of a large American city on the East Coast. It's really late, probably about 2 a.m. I could tell you what I was doing out that late, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, these massive parks connect communities throughout the suburban parts of the metropolitan area. This connection is both figurative, through the many activities put on by the local cities, towns, and neighborhood associations within them, but also literal, as these community parks form part of a network whose spokes stretch for perhaps 100 miles from the city center, connected by a municipal system of expertly preserved trails running through patches of natural forest, far past the city's outer edges, running through various suburban communities and towns as they go. The parks themselves have well-lit jungle gyms, basketball courts, and large fields, with each community taking great pride in their park and attempting to make their section the envy of others. Likewise, the municipality's park rangers, tasked with preserving and maintaining both the trails and the forest itself, take an equally great pride in their role, serving as factotum to the many and varied tasks these natural spaces require. In some places, these natural areas are small strips running next to the bank of a stream or just at the edge of a community field. But in other, less heavily trafficked parts, they become more akin to some primeval woods running deep and thick in the shadow of millions of people. Here you can really feel isolated and in the middle of the natural world, as if the closest living person is perhaps 1,000 miles away. The walking paths here often become more akin to mountain hiking trails. It's not a rare sight to see a family of deer crossing the path during certain parts of the season, or to spot a crane or heron, perhaps sitting on a rock in the middle of a creek, waiting for a fish to pass just close enough for it to become a meal. During the daylight, these deeper sections of the parks can easily be described as serenely beautiful. The trees stand so tall and thick, they mute even the midday sunlight as it works to penetrate through the tough, leafy canopy, bathing it all in eternal twilight. Sounds seem hollow here, and the air feels fresh, transporting one to a simpler era. But as the sun sets and the night encroaches, it's a different story. There is a shift in atmosphere, bringing a sense of foreboding and vulnerability to the isolation, erasing the tranquility of nature's sounds. As I think about what's in front of me, I ponder how even in the daylight hours, this particular part of the trail lacks any of that serenity. This part always seems off, and I always move across it quickly, no matter the hour. When I have walked the trail at night, this place has given me the very real and horrifying feeling that I am being followed. It doesn't happen every time, but sometimes I just feel that there is something out there, tracking me, waiting just beyond my perception for the best moment to strike. This trail is a necessary evil for me, the quickest path between point A and B by a long shot. I live in a neighborhood just on the other side, and this trail is the sole reasonable connection between the two for a pedestrian. As such, it's a place I pass through every few days at least, and often multiple times in a day, on my way to shop, or eat, or hang out with friends. I had long ago come to accept this lonely, frightening walk as the price of going out at this hour. If I was to stay out late, I would need to pass through this park in the darkness. This was me paying the piper. I stopped for a moment, just past where the last set of park lights fade into the shadows. The only bright spot puncturing the darkness ahead is the full moon inhabiting the sky tonight. It bathes everything in its glow, casting all creation around me in its ghostly beams. The entrance to the forest stands just before me now. In a moment, I will be on that trail alone. I attempt to stare down it, focusing on the darkness as imaginary shapes and creatures come out of the shadows. I begin walking again. As the lights continue to fade behind me, the fear of the inevitable becomes stronger. The way the trees and vines hang down from the opening to the forest feels to me like the maw of some dangerous beast beckoning me inside, knowing in its mind that I have no choice but to obey its call. It delights in what comes next, the abhorrent necessity I must endure. Another shiver runs down my spine. To describe my journey through this part of the park as dark would not do it justice. It's a hole, sucking up all sound and light, leaving nothing but blackness behind. The dread of being alone in the middle of that darkness in just a few moments fills my soul. I attempt to reassure myself. It's just about half an hour, less really. There are TV shows I watch longer than that. Then what I think to be a great stroke of luck happens. A man emerges from a shadowy pocket of the last street in the neighborhood that straddles the edge of the forest trail and the end of the community park. He crosses the street to enter the park. He moves quickly, staring down at his phone as he does so. A moment later, a little girl dashes across the road as well, desperate to catch up. They strike me as an odd sight this late at night. A man and a little girl walking together as if he is taking her to school. They hastily cut in front of me, across some pretty thick underbrush that serves as a type of buffer between the forest and the community park. The man hugs the edge, at times tripping and stumbling on the underbrush as he attempts to make a path in the darkness. Once the brush opens up a bit for the trail, he makes a quick beeline to the entrance with the girl barely in tow. It's clear he is attempting to put some distance between us. It's also clear he is willing to give up the little girl to do so. I shake my head, pegging him as some absentee father who got stuck with his kid for the weekend. Still, their appearance is a real relief to me. Now I won't be alone, and I can understand why the man would have his misgivings about me. If he had been alone, I might have been on my guard more as well. You never know what the intentions of others might be, especially when they are out at this hour. I have to be honest and say that at first I was suspicious when I had seen him alone for that brief moment. My first inclination was to try and gauge him and the danger he might represent. But immediately upon seeing the little girl, I was put at ease. She made him a father or uncle, someone entrusted with the care of a child. He continues at his frenetic pace, with the little girl desperate to keep up. He's probably trying to protect her, I try to convince myself, as he continues to leave her behind. Relax, buddy. I'll hang back a bit. I slow my pace, keeping just enough distance for us to be within sight of each other, but still far enough behind for him to feel he could escape me if need be. At this hour, it was a rarity to come upon another soul. I had only seen someone else on 2 other occasions, even though I had been on this trail more times than I care to recollect during my night jaunts. I chuckle as I think about how he's probably thinking the same thing I am right now, being both cautious but also excited that there would be someone else to walk with, rolling the dice that I am a mutual witness to any danger and not the danger itself. I continue with my slower pace, waiting for the 2 to build more distance in front of me. The man does his best to avoid looking in my direction as he hurries along, choosing again to look down at his phone instead as he makes his way into the forest, while the girl, still struggling to keep up, looks at me with a huff, as if I am to blame for his maltreatment of her. Soon they are well enough in front to allow me to pick up my pace once more. I want to keep a healthy distance, but not lose sight of them entirely. The cold of the night gets caught in my throat. I hack it away, and they both look back at me. I can't tell who's more frightened, the man or the little girl. She looks at me and then at him desperately, as if he should be ready to protect her from the threat just behind them. She gives the man the expectant gaze of a young child towards its protector. He, on the other hand, looks back at me for a second nervously before quickly returning to his phone, not even acknowledging the girl or her fears. I really expected him to tell her something, to let her know that everything was going to be okay, to comfort and reassure her. But he didn't. For my part, I try to look past them both, like they are part of the scenery, not much more than a tree, hoping to demonstrate my benignity with my complete disinterest in the both of them. I follow them in, and soon enough we reach the place where the trail sinks into what you might call a small gorge or ravine, and begins running next to a creek, meeting up with it perhaps 2 minutes in from the entrance. The ravine sits at about 200 to 300 feet down at its deepest parts. As the path twists and turns along next to the creek, it alternates between hugging the cut banks in the thinner spaces carved by the river and veering into larger patches of forest in the parts where the gorge opens up a bit more. Like a giant snake, the path negotiates between the creek and the edge of the ravine, following the river as it veers from the middle to the edge of the valley and back again, pushing and pulling on the path as it does so, creating blinds as it alternately wraps between the edge of the gorge and the creek itself in thinner parts, or while carving a path through the forest floor in the wider areas of the gorge. The trail continues this pattern for basically the whole journey, before eventually veering off from the creek once more, rising out of the ravine and spilling out onto a community park on the other side, which is my final destination. At the beginning of the journey, the valley trail is intermittently bordered slightly by light groves before slowly giving way to massive hills and cliffs jutting out as the gorge sinks deeper. In some parts, these hills and cliffs are close to the trail, while in others they are hidden behind deep forest, with vegetation so thick it is hard to see anything past 50 yards in a lot of places, with the hidden hills and cliffs rising out of the ravine and onto the well-lit neighborhoods at some imperceptible place beyond one's line of sight. On the other side of a creek, opposite the trail, the deep growth of a forest lies mostly undisturbed, save for the occasional bit of detritus left by groups of teenagers looking for a place to drink or smoke. Here the deep forest mirrors the trail side, unrelenting and complete, festooned with tall trees that are laid out thickly against the floor of the gully, at points hugging the edges of the hills and cliffs that rise out onto their complementary neighborhoods on that side of the gorge. In the heart of the forest trail, a small nexus exists, formed where another path crosses, coming out of the forest from the other side, bridging over the stream, then continuing on through a gale, and tunneling into a recessed, shorter cliff face, before eventually cutting through the rock and spilling out onto one of the area's streets. Here the darkness is broken exactly where the two trails intersect, becoming a well-lit, welcoming place as it opens up to a small clearing with a seating area. During most times, it serves as a bit of respite for me as I absorb the light and prepare for the other half of my journey. In a lot of places, especially in the area just before the two trails meet, the cliffs are so steep and they hug the creek so closely, the trail itself is forced to swerve amid the narrow space created between the sharp, jutting edges of the towering rock and the creek. These cliffs come seemingly out of nowhere, suddenly rising out of the forest's endlessly creeping hills. Their edifice is so ancient they measure time in eons. In some places, the faces of the rock trespass against the creek, so brazenly there is perhaps 1.5 feet on each side of the path for clearance between the rapid stream and the jagged cliff, leading one to swerve in and out of the rock face in some places. As I said, my journey has me continuing past these jutting rocks, past this midpoint pocket of light, and back into the darkness of the unlit trail, all the way through to the other end. Another 15-minute walk through the darkness at a brisk pace. I hope the man and the little girl will continue on too, and not abandon me to face this part alone. It will be nice to have some companions to walk with. I can't help but stare at the little girl as they stroll in front of me. She is wearing a brilliant white summer dress. It looks completely unblemished, which is strange to see on a child so young. I have a few cousins a bit older, and they get into everything. A child of that age doesn't care about whether or not her clothes are dirty. Still, the dress is immaculate. Given the distance, it's hard to make out any real details of the outfit. I can tell, though, that it's a real fancy thing. She looks like she just came out of church on an Easter Sunday, but this isn't Sunday, and it's definitely not Easter. A sharp wind whips across my face, and I'm reminded of the season once more. I realize it's pretty cool for her to be wearing the light summer dress she has on. Even though it's early fall, the nights are already beginning to get cold. Too cold to be wearing something like that. She is also carrying a red balloon with her. The color of it looks artificial, like one created for candies to make them look more appealing for children. I guess that whoever came up with the color of the balloon tried to create the same appeal. It makes me hungry just looking at it. Another stiff breeze cuts across the night, and I shiver a bit. The girl seems unaffected by the cold in the way that only a child of that age ever is. The man, on the other hand, is dressed for the weather. Both he and I are wearing light jackets. He shivers a bit too. She should be shivering, shouldn't she? The longer I walk behind her and the man, the more I realize just what a bad traveling companion he is for the little girl. Although he has slowed down a little bit, the man continues walking quickly, at a pace that makes it hard for the girl to keep up with him. It almost looks like he's trying to get away from her. As time goes on, I watch her lose interest in keeping up with the man entirely, and she begins darting further and further away from the trail, exuberantly pointing things out to the man, begging for his attention, all the while dragging the balloon behind her. I watch with concern as she keeps dipping farther and farther off the trail and closer to the creek. Come on, man. Aren't you gonna tell her something? Aren't you going to show her even the slightest bit of attention? The guy's disinterest in the girl continues, almost bordering on neglect, even when she comes so dangerously close to the edge of the creek that I fear she is going to fall in. Come on, man. Aren't you gonna tell her something? Aren't you gonna show her the slightest bit of attention? The guy's disinterest in the girl continues, almost bordering on neglect, even when she comes so dangerously close to the edge of the creek that I fear she is going to fall in. He does seem to glance over at her during some points, and she ventures back a bit when she sees him looking, but it is really not enough. She knows she's doing wrong. It's why she keeps looking back, to get some kind of reaction from the man. Come on, buddy. She is starving for your attention. I had seen this kind of behavior before in my youngest sister's kid when she was busy with something else. The little girl's apprehension about me, the strange man following them, now seems to have melted away, revealing a genuine curiosity in me. She seems to be doing her best to keep me in her sights, tracking me as their part of the path meanders out of my view, venturing further off the trail into areas where she can check to make sure I am still behind them. After a bit more of this, I finally resolve to make eye contact with the girl and gesture to her to go back with the man on the trail. She has an angry, dejected look on her face, but obeys, or at least as far as I can tell, as she disappears out of my view altogether and into one of the blinds, still with a huff in her step, but going in the man's general direction. When I veer around a bend and am able to see the girl and the man again, she is offering him the balloon, but he is paying her no mind, looking past her and the red balloon she is shoving in his face. He is looking back for me instead, expecting my return, checking on me in his own way. When he eyes me, he quickly focuses on his phone once again and picks up his pace a bit, spying me uncomfortably every few minutes from the corner of his vision. After watching them for a bit, I see the little girl reach for his hand timidly. Then when he doesn't respond, she becomes insistent about it. At one point, even throwing a tantrum, angrily stomping her feet, waiting for the man to acknowledge her. But he never reaches for her hand, and he never stops walking. Instead, he continues on, pretending she does not exist, staring down at his phone, and leaving the little girl behind, to stand there alone on the trail. She looks at me for a moment, as if to ask for my help, before rushing to rejoin her companion. Maybe she wants me to intervene, to call out to him and tell him to stop. When I gaze more intently, though, I feel as if she wants to go with me instead. I don't know why, I just get that feeling. I shake the weird thought from my mind. Maybe he's angry at her for some reason. I just hope he isn't her father. I wonder about their relationship again, these strange interactions they have. I try to put myself in the man's shoes. I mean, I get it, I guess, or at least I can understand it. We're walking through this dark forest trail late at night, cut off from anyone else. He's obviously scared of me. Really, he's preoccupied by my threat. And this little girl keeps slowing him down, keeps trying to distract him. but you would think that would make him more cautious with her, watch over her more, and demand her compliance with his authority. Instead, he is willing to leave her behind when faced with the danger I pose. Putting it all together in this way causes a wave of anger to wash over me. This guy is a real coward. How could anyone do that to a little girl? Part of me wants to call out to him, to demand that he take the little girl's hand, to demand that he pay attention to her. But you never know how he would take some stranger yelling at him, especially in this place, at this hour. Better to just hang back while still keeping them within my sights as best I can. At least then I can make sure she is safe from a distance. This becomes more and more difficult, however, as we sink deeper into the gorge, and the path must negotiate the space between the creek to the rock face more and more. When they disappear behind a blind, and I can't see them or focus on them, that's when I feel that I'm alone in this darkness, and a dread wells up inside of me. In that loneliness, I feel the dark unknown pressing in from behind, nipping at my heels. I feel like there is something out there following me, hidden somewhere in the shadows, watching and waiting for just the right moment. The innate fear makes me pick up my pace and pushes me closer to them before I catch myself. Wait! Stop! I don't want to get too close. The man seems really frightened of me. I don't want him picking up his pace, or perhaps even running off, leaving me here in the woods by myself. Maybe he'd even leave the little girl behind, abandoning her for his own perceived self-preservation. When they come out of the blind again, I realize the longer I watch them, the more uneasy they make me. I can't shake the feeling that there is something weird and unsettling about their relationship, the way they are interacting with each other. It just looks unnatural, like one of those edited photos where they take the eyebrows off the model and ask you to figure out what's wrong with it. I can't really place it, but something is off. Something nefariously dangerous is lurking just beyond my ability to recognize the danger. This is something real, an instinctual threat, a shadow swimming just below me in murky water. I can't see it, but I know it's there. Still, the more I try to picture the man as an aggressor and the little girl as some kind of victim, the less it makes sense. At first, his fear seemed suspicious to me, but as time goes on, I realize it's because he's just really scared. Scared of me, or the trail, or just this whole situation. If anything, he would be a poor excuse for any kind of threat, too fearful to do something evil. The longer I watch them, the more it becomes clear that it is the girl who is the one who is off. She isn't scared. Even at the beginning, she wasn't scared. I realized she is angry, even if she is trying to hide it, and this anger is only getting stronger. It's almost like she is projecting her emotions onto me and making me uncomfortable. In fact, she feels dangerous. I feel like she's staring down into me even when I can't see her. Maybe he's more scared of her than he is of me. I chuckle to myself. Or maybe I'm just freaking him out a bit. Maybe I'm following too closely. Relax, man. Give them some space, I tell myself forcefully, perhaps a bit too loudly. As even with the distance between us, both the man and the little girl look back. I'm sure they couldn't make out the words, but still my intonations are enough. I'm a guy that's talking to himself as the three of us journey together through the fearful night. They both turn towards me as if on cue, the man with a look of absolute terror in his eye, and the girl with the perturbed intensity that burns so hot I feel like it's going to put a hole right through me. He picks up his pace again, this time breaking into a power walker's stride. The girl, still focused on me, fails to realize this right away and finds herself struggling to catch up to him again, the balloon energetically bopping behind her, a mark of her desperation to be next to him. When she was matching his pace once more, she looks at me again with the same intense focus. I feel like she blames me for the man's increased stride and the struggle she faced to match it. I continue at my same pace, allowing a bit more distance to build between us as we both meander on through the twists and turns in the path, engaging in our odd dance as we continue our journey through the creek and blinds of the ravine. I tell myself I'm hoping he will feel less threatened by it, that he will slow down a bit. After all, he can't keep that pace up forever. Not with the little girl in tow, right? My mind races with all the times I have seen him almost leave her behind while ignoring her. I stare down at my phone, hoping to advertise my disinterest in the two of them as we appear and disappear from each other again and again in our waltz through the forest. It seems to work. The man slows down, seemingly satisfied with the gap he has created between us. Still, I look over the screen of the cell every now and then when they are in my view, making sure I am not too close and to check their reaction to me whenever they disappear into a particularly deep blind. The feeling of being exposed from behind returns, and with it the gnawing feeling there is something back there in the darkness, lurking just outside my perception, an unknowable evil stalking me. It seems like at any moment I will feel a warm breath on my neck or a sharp claw run down my spine. I shiver some more, thinking about it, and I pick up my pace, just slightly, so I can close the space that has built up between us a bit. Maybe I can have them in view, without the man noticing that I am closing in. After what feels like an eternity, I see them again and feel relief. I am not alone. Suddenly, a car honks aggressively from the street above, sending the reverberations echoing down to us below. It betrayed just how close others were to us, but also served as a reminder that distance can be measured in many ways. We might as well have been on the moon. This place was a black hole, sucking everything in, and we were trapped, forced to journey along this path together, while the unseen creatures of this place looked upon us, perched in their dark corners. The car honks again, longer this time as the driver holds it, then follows with a few repetitive short taps. I picture someone outside of a home, trying to get the attention of those inside, perhaps a date or a friend. The girl covered her ears in response, staring angrily up at the man as if she expects him to do something again. But the man continued on, ignoring it, intently focused on his phone. As time passes, she begins to look back at me for longer stretches. Her countenance has changed, though, from one of blinding rage to a welcoming smile. After a few beaming long looks, she even waves me over to them. To be honest, it's a bit off-putting, even with the grin plastered across her face now. I feel like there is still anger there, projecting itself into my soul, brewing just below the surface, and that she is trying to mask it with that smile. I smile back at her as warmly as I can, though. I tell myself that it's to advertise my innocent intentions. But in my heart, I know it's because I'm afraid of the little girl, and I'm doing my best to placate her. The man catches me smiling, and seemingly shocked by my gesture, he gives me a puzzled look and picks up his pace again. I swear I'm not dangerous. Please don't run away. I almost want to plead in my desperation. The girl sprints quickly, effortlessly this time, as she moves to keep up with the man. It's as if she is floating above the trail somehow. She looks back at me every now and then when she doesn't think the man is looking, and I shoot her innocent smiles, doing my best to mask how uncomfortable her gazes make me. She seems to think it's some kind of game or a secret hidden from the man, and that makes me even more uncomfortable somehow. We are now closing in on the intersection between our trail and the other. I can see the lighting in the distance through the trees. Here, the particularly long and deep embankments of the ravine where the two paths cross create a particularly long and drawn-out blind. I will lose them in the darkness, and I won't know which path they took for quite some time. Hopefully they'll pop out from the other side and continue on down the final part of the path with me. If I don't see them, then it means they took the intersection out of the park and that I'm truly alone. I can also see the bridge that crosses over the river begin to peek out from through the gnarled branches. It's a covered one, all the way through, with long slits running from side to side across the top of the walls enclosing it. The light from the electric buzzing orbs inside is streaming out and bouncing across the dark surface of the creek. The roof is a steeple-shaped thing, allowing for any leaves or branches to slide off and into the creek below. Through the light of the moon, and that shining off from the intersection of the trails, I am now able to make out the place on the path where the man and the little girl will go into the deep blind. It is not far off. I hope they will continue on with me. Even this weird couple is light years beyond having to walk through the darkness of this forest alone. Moment of truth, I whisper to myself. I spy them slowly disappear as the path veers around a large bend and on into the place where the paths intersect. First, the man disappears, staring up from his phone and checking my distance one last time before vanishing completely from my view around a craggy bluff in the ravine. Then it's just the little girl. For the longest time, as she leaves the path once more and continues to hug the river for as long as she possibly can, doing her best to keep me in her view, at times almost walking into the water. Again, where is this guy? I think to myself in frustration before reminding myself that I too am uncomfortable with the girl, and I don't even really know her. Just as she is about to evaporate into the forest, she looks back with a creepy stare. She waves me toward her once again, this time desperately, as if it were my last chance for something, and then, a bit perturbed by my unresponsiveness, she slides out of my view and into the deep blind. I will have to wait to find out what path they will take. Time slows to a crawl. I have to relax my gait as I catch myself picking up my pace once more to catch up to them, eager to escape the nagging feeling that there is something behind me, just out of sight in the darkness, breathing down my neck again. I can almost hear it behind me, whispering in my ear. But if I move too fast, I won't be able to see if they emerge from the blind. Walking slowly here on this part of the path will be the easiest way for me to know. I'm elated when I see the little girl pop out in the distance from behind the covered bridge on the other side of the long blind. I'm relieved that we'll continue our journey through the darkness together. I wait for the inevitable appearance of the man. Seconds drag past, achingly slow. All existence seems to wait in anticipation of his arrival. But it is only the girl. The man never appears. I stand there for moments that feel like hours. My excitement turns into fearful alarm when he doesn't appear after he comfortably should. The little girl continues on alone, at the same pace as if the man were still with her, oblivious to the danger of being alone in the dark woods during the middle of the night.
"Little girl,"
I yell.
"stop!"
My voice echoes through the darkness of the ravine at night.
Just stop right there."
I stutter out, doing my best to sound authoritative but calm, and completely failing on both measures. I sound desperate and scared, the words pleading for her to obey. I'm not even sure if she can understand what I am saying. In fact, I'm pretty sure she can't. Hopefully the tone itself will suffice. Having given myself away, she stops for a moment, before turning around and frantically waving me over to her. Perhaps she is telling me the man is in danger. I pick up my stride a bit before stopping dead in my tracks. But that might put me in danger too, I reason. Almost instantly, I decide it doesn't matter. If the man needs help, then I must help him. I move quickly in the direction of the intersection, cautiously spying the path ahead while searching for the man, and continuing to watch over the little girl, attempting to communicate my command to stay with my eyes. I pull out my phone, ready to call 911. Then I remember that there is no service here. The depth of the ravine seems to cut it off. I run frantically down the path. I picture the intersection in my mind as I continue scanning my surroundings, preparing myself for what I might face. This area in the middle has another sort of mini gully within the ravine right where the tunnel enters the cliffside. I am guessing that is why it was built there. This was the best place to have two paths, cross then tunnel into the jagged rock of the cliff, as it was the furthest away from the creek at this point when compared to the rest of the ravine. I picture the small tunnel that eventually opens up into the neighborhood streets. It really looks like a large culvert pipe, cut in half and laid over the trail. I have always had my suspicions that it could double as one if the rain ever got heavy enough, pouring the excess water into the creek. Just stop right there. Please. I'm gonna get your dad, okay? I call back to the girl again as I realize I am coming up to the place where I will go into that deep blind myself and out of her view. I stop to make sure she heard me by checking for a response. This is the first time since she appeared without the man that I have really a good long look at her. She continues to wave me over, but no longer in a frantic, desperate way. It's in more of a calm and friendly way. She is inviting me over now, not calling for help, and I find this to be really creepy. Where is the man? The worst part, though, was that on her face I noticed she has a grin again, and even at this distance, it looks unnatural. I don't know what it is about it, but it scares me. After this, I think she realizes I am not coming right away. The hateful anger shows itself once more, as if I had done something totally disgusting to her. I feel she is jealous of the man, almost like she's putting this thought into my mind. She begins by herself to walk into the darkness of the park, daring me to follow. Something had to have happened to the guy. Maybe he fell or something. The adrenaline pumping through me shakes away the fear. I take off in a sprint. I have to get to him first, figure out what's wrong, and then go for the girl. After what feels like an eternity, I finally make it to the place where the paths intersect, only to see it empty and calm. It's disconcerting to me. I stop, partly to catch my breath, and partly because I don't know what to do next. Through my desperate panting, I hear footsteps echoing in the tunnel. Maybe it's him, or maybe it's someone who can help. Either way, hearing those footsteps needed to be a good thing. I have to believe it. In a flash, I make it into the tunnel. About halfway up, I see the man, walking at a more leisurely pace than I had seen on the trail, as he makes his way up the slight incline and toward the neighborhood. He seems to be almost nonchalant in his stride, relieved in fact. I'm dumbstruck and confused. Didn't he realize the little girl isn't with him anymore? No, that's impossible. He would have known. My mind jumps back to seeing him as a predator, and to thoughts more nefarious. My mind is filled with recollections of how he had treated the girl. Now I become angry as all the pieces fall into place. In retrospect, she seemed more like an object to him, something to drag along and discard, like an old candy wrapper. There is no way this guy cares about the little girl. There's absolutely no fucking way. He dumped her in the middle of this dark park on purpose, like he was trying to throw her away. How could it be anything else? How could he not see that she wasn't with him anymore? I run to catch up, the echo of my strides ricocheting off the metallic walls of the tunnel. He hears me and turns around. A look of terrified panic comes across his face, and he takes off as fast as he can, sprinting up the tunnel toward the neighborhood. Hey, come back here! I demand loudly in the most threatening tone I can muster. My voice fills the place. What did you do to that little girl? I yell demandingly, a deeply instinctual and guttural grunt tinging my words. He yells something at me like, "Leave me alone and get the girl," before desperately picking up his pace even more so, running for his life. The man is fast and he is blasting ahead. My own efforts are slowed by a mix of my disillusionment at his surprising speed, my own exhaustion from having run to get to the tunnel in the first place, and the weight of my concern for that poor little girl alone in the forest. I realize I'm not going to get him, and every moment I'm here, I'm not helping her. Finally, I stop and turn back, spewing a vague threat of, "They're gonna get you," as I double over briefly, gasping desperately for air. After a second, I do my best to stand up straight, leaning against the tunnel with one hand and putting the other against my hip. I listen as the echoes of the man's steps fade into nothing. I desperately catch my breath before turning around and looking back down into the tunnel. I don't look forward to undertaking the physical challenge to come, or with returning back into the darkness of the forest. Still, I have to find the girl. Exhausted, but having regained some of my determination, I move as quickly as possible, desperate to make up the distance between the two of us. I make it to where I had seen her standing last when she had cleared the deep blind. I stop for a moment to look around. She's nowhere to be found. I had hoped that she had stopped, that she had heard and respected my wishes. It's clear to me that she must have just continued walking down the trail. I run quickly, almost frantically, hoping to catch up to her. I shine the light of my phone into the woods on either side of the trail, even onto the other side of the creek, just in case she was able to cross it somehow. But I see nothing. These woods are disturbingly quiet. I hope she didn't go too far off the trail, I think to myself. I move quickly, partly to look for the girl, and also because I feel like I am being watched, like there is someone in the forest following me, hiding in the shadows. At times I swear I hear something moving through the brush, expertly mimicking and blending with the forest background noise. Another chill runs down my back with the realization of this, and it tinges my search. I'm eager to be done with this task, to either find the girl or have reception again and call the police. The end of the trail is coming up. I look behind constantly now, almost tripping over my own steps, feeling as if there is something just on top of me. I can't wait till I get out of here. I've done enough. Anyone can see that. After rising out of the gully, the penultimate feature of the trail is a small but sharp twisting turn before finally spilling onto a neighborhood park. This turn always gives me the same type of relief that I imagine one of those legendary knights in the books or movies have when they finally return to the edge of their homeland and the end of their journey. The place where it might say, the end, or where the credits would begin to roll. The turn is so sharp, and the vegetation marking the edge of the forest so thick, that the trail behind disappears from view altogether, hiding whatever may lie just inside. I am completely exhausted from running up the hill that rises out of the forest and into the park. I stumble into the large park, my legs feeling like lead. It's a relief to be welcomed by its open fields and stadium lights overlooking baseball diamonds and football fields. Something inside of me is hoping to see the little girl's silhouette in those fields, somewhere in the distance, but she is nowhere to be found. Now that I'm actually here, I have mixed feelings about reaching the end of the trail. I'm relieved to be out of the darkness and the feeling of creeping danger, but I'm disappointed that I didn't find the girl on the trail. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. If she is anywhere, she should be out here, I tell myself while scanning the park. I don't see her. Now that it's clear she is not in the park, my body shuts down and I stop in my tracks, slumping over in exhaustion. I listen to my heavy panting echoing through the crisp air and watch my breath form vapors before disappearing into the darkness. The cold night air fills my lungs, burning my chest as it does so. The park is empty, and even though I am truly alone, I don't feel that way. It still feels like someone is watching me. The more I catch my breath and the adrenaline fades, the more uneasy I become. After a moment, I catch my breath enough to be able to stand up straight again. I pull my phone out once more, waiting for the instant when my panting will not get in the way of holding a conversation. I am just about to press the button to call 911 when the scent of candy fills my nostrils. A delicious candy. It smells familiar to me, like some happy childhood memory, but I can't place it. I feel compelled to look in the park one more time, as if I know that this is the source of the smell. There is a shift in the atmosphere of the place. I feel like a great danger has just arrived suddenly. I am terrified of going back, but for some reason I can't stop. I'm compelled to retrace my steps. I'm drawn back to the darkness of the trail. It's like I can't control my own body. I am offering myself for an unwilling sacrifice. I must look back into the darkness, towards the incomprehensible danger I feel relieved to have just escaped. Something is beckoning me. I can't stop. Apprehensively, slowly, I look around the corner of the vegetation, exposing myself more with every inch I peer over, but every inch also allows me to look that much further down the trail. What I see next sets my skin tingling and the fine hairs all over my body to stand on end. I would later come to realize it as the scariest moment of my life. I spy something in the middle of the trail. As I peer further around the bend, I'm shocked, but it's her. It's the little girl. She is there, her eyes locked on me, still waving and still smiling, laughing and looking at me, as if she had tricked me, as if she had been there all along, parked firmly on that trail. But she wasn't there. I know she wasn't there. I had just walked past that very point not 5 minutes before, searching for her desperately as the looming fear of the thing lurking in the darkness had filled my soul. How could I have missed her? She is probably about 20 feet away from me, and in the moonlight I finally have a good look at the child that I had only really seen in bits and pieces or from a considerable distance up to this point. That smile, That creepy smile, and especially that laugh, they haunt me, but also draw me in. They are disturbing things, like a gruesome car accident on the side of the highway. I feel like she wants me to go to her, and I am about to oblige her. It is then that I realize what is so off-putting about her smile and so disconcerting about her laughter. They feel completely fake, as if she is imitating laughter and contriving a smile, almost like she is not a child, not even human, an imposter, someone trying to act the part of a child. I look into her eyes now. Although everything else appeared young, the eyes were old, worn down, and enraged. It's like the rest is a costume, and this is the only part the gruesome thing underneath could not hide. This was the beast exposing itself, and as a result, the creature gives me a hint of its true gruesome form. I feel my heart begin to race, as if it would beat out of my chest. I stop walking down the trail and just stand there watching, the shock rendering me immobile. Having ascertained that I'm not coming, it stops waving and glares at me instead with those hostile eyes. Still continuing the ruse, the thing turns around in an angry huff, putting its back to me. Then, as if another idea comes to its mind, the creature in the little girl costume turns toward me once more. It begins doing some kind of twirling dance with that red balloon bouncing above it, almost as if it's performing for me. This is when I notice something else that only adds to the overwhelming sense of unease and danger now overtaking my senses. The creature is twisting in these little circles, and I keep expecting the balloon to tangle somehow, to wrap around it, but the balloon never does. It's because there is no string around the balloon. It's just floating there, reacting to the costumed creature, guided by some unseen force, as if it served this monster and was in submission to it. As I watch the strange red thing bouncing, it kind of mesmerizes me. I feel the same, a compunction to go to it again, but I catch myself. As the smile and the laugh were, this seems like another false thing, a piece of bait that's meant to lure me in. The same way some snakes catch prey, moving their tails in such a way that it looks like a small injured animal. That's what the balloon is. It's bait. It's a trap. Just like the smile and that creepy laugh, that creature is trying to capture me for some reason. Some unrecognized ancient instinct now takes over, rousing me from the daze of shock and shaking the shackles free from my legs. Before I understand what's happening, I am quickly running the other way, into the neighborhoods, and away from whatever this thing is. I don't look back, I just run as fast as I possibly can until my body finally gives out. When it does, I crumble over in pain, collapsing against a small fence. This time, as I gasp for breath, I know I have just escaped a great evil, maybe even something life-threatening. As the adrenaline leaves me again, I replay it all in my mind. In that state of exhaustion, I finally realize what the man was yelling while he was running away from me. He wasn't saying, "Leave me alone." He was saying that he was alone. There was no little girl. He wasn't scared of the consequences of what he had done. He feared what the crazy man chasing him was going to do if he caught up. He feared me. My mind echoes with his words as I try to put it all together. I think of how she had never touched the man, how he had, in turn, ignored her, almost as if he could not see her. And that's because he didn't. To him, it was just the two of us walking through that park. When he had been unreceptive to its advances, the creature seemed to focus its attention instead on me, attempting to lure me in with him, as if he were some kind of prop, like the smile and the balloon and that creepy laugh. I had seen the little girl, or rather the creature dressed as a little girl, and the man had not for some reason. The trap was set from me the moment the creature knew I could see it, bringing me in a little at a time, preying on the fact that I felt sorry for it, until finally it played into my desperation after it separated from the man, and I had seen it all alone. My concern for the creature dressed as a little girl, causing me to dive into the forest like a madman. Then after I had escaped it, the creature had attempted to lure me back, and for whatever reason I had escaped again somehow. But I had almost gone. I had almost fallen for the trap. Still, I left her standing there by herself, in the middle of the dark trail, right where she belonged. And I thank God every day that I did just that. But why had I seen her, and not the man? Had she chosen me over him, or was I just a victim of circumstance? Those are the real questions, the ones that haunt me now, the ones that I think about every day. Thank you for joining us today. Please follow us if you dare. We will continue to create stories regularly and post them here. Until next time, when we gather here again to hear more tales told by the fire.